You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
Since 96, MLS has been the youngest soccer league. From 10 teams to 30, playoffs and parity. Battered MLS bring local guests to cover games. Analysis firsthand, not Google like other lanes. Stats and recaps cover the West and East. Can't forget, we're on Sean Johnson, watch every week. DPs for the elite, Tam Gam get you the vets. Playoff trees as American as it gets. It's time to turn off the world, grab a drink and let's go. We're Battered MLS fans, so lock in on the show. Battered MLS fans, so lock in on the show.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Welcome everybody to episode number 64 of the Battered MLS Fans Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Granada, and alongside me, I got Jaime from Cantina Mx. Once again, what's going on, Jaime? How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. As you can see, I got my vacation shirt on because that is the current theme and status for Liga MX teams in Leagues Cup. They went on holiday. They went on vacation. They went shopping.
Did they not care? Because I felt like, I remember after day one of the first round of games, everybody was like, oh, Liga MX came to play. MLS is looking bad. And then day two, Miami shows up. They beat Atlas. And then day three, Seattle puts it on Cruz Azul. And then I felt like after that, it was just like the tables turned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Cruz Azul is a joke. And that 7-0 is like historical, like legendary.
Yeah, that's
wild.
wild.
I don't know if Larcamón, the coach, is going to live this down. You know, it's been concerning for Liga MX for sure. The Big Four, none of them are proceeding to the next round. The Big Four, America, Cruz Azul, Pumas, and Chivas, of course. They're currently playing right now 2-up against Cincinnati.
But they're already out.
Already mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, so it's wild. I thought that Liga MX would have a better showing. I know that you guys don't play any games in Mexico, so that is a disadvantage. Even though you guys are represented pretty well, at least the big teams are represented pretty well. They've been showing out at Chase Stadium and across the country. But yeah, I was that 7-0. I think is the standout of the first phase, right? Because there were some results that were a little surprising, but I think that 7-0 is, I mean, that's as bad as it gets.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to live that down. That's a historical defeat. It's one of the worst in all history for them. Up there with America beating them 7-0, but you know, for it to be Seattle Sounders, I think it's just salt in the wound, right? You know, we expected some of these performances to go MLS side just because you guys are in better form. You guys are like almost towards the end of your season, and Liga MX is just starting up. But there's no excuse for some of the performances we're seeing on the Liga MX side. And I'll tell you what, on the pundit side, on the media side in Mexico, they're tearing up some of these teams, especially Cruz Azul. Yeah, and America too, Jardine, he's been getting a lot of scrutiny, even leading up to this tournament. So this is a huge wake-up call for Liga MX. I know people will take it with a grain of salt, like, oh, this is just, preseason for us or just tune-up games for us. But, I think there's still a level of competition you expect from certain teams.
Yeah, like Monterrey, like when they lost to Cincinnati that first game, I think that was the first shock for me because I expected Cincinnati to not have any chance because I thought Monterrey would put it on them. So when they beat Monterrey, that was a surprise to me. And then the fact that Galaxy went ahead and they beat Cruz Azul also, even though it was a draw technically and it was a PK shootout, Galaxy is literally the worst team in the MLS right now. So for them to go ahead and beat Cruz Azul, I felt like those are two horrible losses for Cruz Azul, which is, I think, number one. No, they weren't number one in the league.
Pachuca is number one right now.
Pachuca, yeah, it's Pachuca. But it's still very surprising. Now, Pachuca did go through. It was Pachuca, Toluca, Tigres, and Puebla that made it through for Liga MX. And unless LA Galaxy win tonight and they win by 4 goals or more, it will be Portland, Orlando, Miami, and Seattle making it through for the MLS sides. Before we get into those games, what did you think about the Leagues Cup as a whole so far compared to last year?
Yeah, again,
last 2 years.
I did like the fact that they scheduled it where it's Liga MX versus MLS all matches, right? So there's no bias there. Mm-hmm. I did like that, but Efrain Juarez, the coach of Pumas, is like, hey, we're competing for 4 spots. So are the 14 remaining teams just like idiots? Like, what are we doing here? So he was very unhappy and disgruntled with the new format of this tournament because by match day 2, like by match day 3, some of these teams are already mathematically eliminated. So what are we fighting for? Right now with Chivas, the game got delayed because of rain or thunder, lightning, whatever you want to call it, and they have nothing to fight for right now. They're already mathematically eliminated. It's just to show face and to tune up for their match on Sunday, which is
yeah. And then real quick, somebody told me that they believe that the Galaxy only need to win by 2. And right now, if they were to win, they would have the same amount of points as Orlando and Portland, which are 3 and 4. Orlando has a goal differential of 6. Portland has a goal differential of 5. The Galaxy at the moment has a goal differential of 3. So 3 to 5. So yes, they need to win by. Yeah, if they win by 2 goals, they would make it through. So you are correct. Whoever was that said that. So it would be either the Galaxy or Portland making it to that last spot. Okay.
Does that change the order of who faces who?
No, it would just change Portland against Toluca, because I mean, unless they win by 7, that's 2. Unless they win by more than 5 goals, they would move into third. But I highly doubt they're gonna win by more than 5 goals. Like I said, they're literally the worst team in the league right now. So, but we'll see. Who are they playing today? They're playing against I forgot who they're playing this last game against.
Santos Laguna, which are trash, right? Like,
there you go. All right, so 2 trash teams. There you go.
Trash day for me where I live, so it's just the current theme.
But Santos Laguna is already eliminated, so a trash team that has nothing to play for and a trash team that does have something to play for, we'll see. That could change things. But all right, so one thing we know for sure. The Seattle Sounders are winning. They're number 1 in the MLS, and they will be playing against Puebla. The Seattle Sounders, for those that are familiar with the NFL, I always compare them to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're not really sure how or why, but you just know they're going to be there. They're going to be competitive, and they're always going to be a playoff team. They're always going to give everybody a good fight. I didn't expect that 7-0. I didn't expect them to be one of the 4 teams, to be perfectly honest with you. But they will put up a fight. Now, what could you tell me about Puebla? Because I don't know too much about Puebla. I just know that Miami beat them last year in Leagues Cup.
I knew that there was going to be one dark horse in this tournament for Liga MX, and it's Puebla. It was going to be Juarez too, which would be perfect because that's their mascot. But yeah, Juarez failed to secure their spot. They looked good in the first 2 matches. They just couldn't win the penalty shootout today. And yeah, Puebla sneaking in there. They're just a bunch of misfits. They're a team that a lot of players that have they're on this team have traveled. They've been on bigger teams, and they're kind of towards their tail end of their careers, and they're somehow managing to get these results through. And good for them. They're definitely like the dark horse, the little engine that could. I did not expect them or anticipate them doing so well in this tournament. And Ricardo Marin, former Chivas player, he's been scoring goals, so good for him.
Well, Puebla beat NYCFC, which isn't the best of teams. They lost to Columbus 3-1, and then they beat Montreal, which outside of the Galaxy is the worst team. Those are the worst 2 teams in the league, Montreal and LA Galaxy. So Puebla, I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily very impressive. The NYCFC win was nice, but I would expect Seattle could move on in this case. Seattle and Puebla, because Seattle is in good form right now in the MLS, and I mean, obviously in this run of the tournament. And Puebla, like you said, they're a bunch of misfits. So I would suspect that maybe the Sounders have a good shot here. But moving on to Miami Tigres, I think this is going to be the game of the round that everybody's talking about. Tigres, obviously one of the big teams in Liga MX. Miami, obviously one of the favorites here for the MLS side. Tigres, what could you tell me about Tigres? Because they lost to LAFC, which I wasn't expecting.
I wasn't expecting that either, but they have a deep roster, and they were one of my gallos to get through to the top 4. They just have a lot of squad, and at any point somebody can step up, right? So it's expected for them to go through, and this is a very, very mouth-watering quarterfinal. I think that they can definitely go all the way, have a deep run, but this matchup is a little bit early. I would have liked us to see in the semi or even in the final.
Right, and there's a good chance that Messi comes back for this game, which is what everybody's hoping, because this game isn't played next week. We have 2 weeks before the next game. It's going to be played on August 19th, which is a Tuesday. So it should be interesting. I'm sure Tigres fans are going to show up because, I mean, they, like I said, Atlas showed up in Miami. Pumas fans showed up in Miami. I wouldn't doubt that Tigres are going to fill up that stadium also.
Angel Correa, he, as a player I mentioned on the last show, he World Cup winner with Argentina. Tigres picked him up over the summer. Big signing. He's got 4 goals in this tournament, and showing why he's the real deal. And I actually had a question for you about Inter Miami.
Yeah, go for it.
Taking a step back with that matchup with Necaxa and that injury from Messi. Like, it seems like, ruffled some feathers there with Mascherano saying some things after the match. And so is Messi like done, or like is it a pretty serious injury?
No, it sounds like it was just a tweak of the hamstring, which has been a recurring thing, right? And he's 38 at this point. It's going to be something that happens, but it's nothing crazy. Like I said, they said that it wasn't nothing serious, and they expect him back in 3 to 4 weeks. Because this is a quarterfinal game against Tigres, I have a feeling that he's going to come back within the 2.5 week mark for this game. But he should be good. And to be honest with you, I kind of like Miami having to kind of survive without Messi, kind of getting the other players to have to step up. Look, Luis Suarez has been on a rough run this year, and Messi came out that game. Luis Suarez played a good rest of the game. And then yesterday against I'm blanking Pumas, he was man of the match. Yeah, he had a goal called back. He had that PK goal. He had 2 assists. So I think that it's going to be good. And once he comes back, hopefully everybody kind of keep that level. But I think things are going to look good for Miami against Tigres.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. It's a shame that it's so early. I would have liked to see that semi or even the final. But like Soccer Daddy mentioned, Correa versus Messi, that's a really good matchup there.
Absolutely. All right. And then Orlando versus Pachuca. Orlando is a very defensive team. They like to play the counter. They're gonna how could you say, they're gonna gut out some wins. Even though they put it on Necaxa yesterday 5-1. Luis Muriel finally showed up because he's been pretty inconsistent since he arrived in Orlando. Pachuca, though, at the moment is probably top team in Mexico. Are you expecting Pachuca to keep showing out?
Yes, absolutely. We'll see what happens. The next round is a couple weeks away. We'll see if they can continue that hot streak that they have in Leagues Cup and in Liga MX. They're undefeated, 3 for 3. And yeah, I had to eat crow because I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Lozano. I'm not a big fan of his coaching abilities, but it goes to show they lost some players to that team that they recently got promoted in Spain, and they've been able to fill the gaps. Pocho Guzman, former Chivas player, came in and already making an impact, scoring goals. And, he's been definitely a huge influence and impact for the Pachuca team. Quiñones as well has been a big pickup for him. So, yeah, I think Pachuca will take this match over Orlando for sure.
Orlando's one of those sneaky teams that they have very good players. They're just inconsistent. I actually just did a show with an Orlando guest, and they were saying that, they're a good team. They're just inconsistent, but when they turn it on, they can. But they are very defensive. They will play the counter. I don't know how Pachuca will defend that, but Pachuca being the top team in Mexico, I'd assume that maybe they can make it through also. And then Portland, which I think was the surprise team for everybody making it out in the MLS, is playing against Toluca, another top team in Mexico. Toluca, what do you say about Toluca?
Yeah, current Liga MX champions, another team that I expected to get through to the next round, and they did well. And yeah, this is Turco Mohamed, the coach. This is his bread and butter. He loves knockout stages. He's really good at them. That's why he's got 5 championships in Liga MX. So he knows how to win the game. It's going to be interesting though, because I believe it's just one leg, right? It's just one-off match, elimination match. There's no home and away, right? So it's always just going to be one and done.
It's going to be one and done, and it sounds like Portland's also losing Santi Moreno, which is a big part of their team, and he's going to be leaving. And I'm not even sure, because I thought that Portland and everybody in that division or that group would have a chance, but they lost to Club America in PKs. They beat Querétaro, and that's why I thought they would move on, because I thought that everybody was going to beat up on Querétaro. And they beat San Luis 4-0. So they took advantage of those teams that are kind of bottom feeders. But I would assume against Toluca, they're not going to have a chance. I think Toluca should be a shoo-in to move on to the next round.
Yeah, they have a lot of offensive power, Paulinho, and then they have Canelo, Angulo, obviously Alexis Vega, and a lot of the players on this team are national team starters, right? So Gallardo, Marcel Ruiz, Alexis Vega, these guys are all suiting up for the national team next year in the World Cup. So yeah, very strong squad, and it's gonna be a tough one for Portland for sure.
Absolutely. And what I'm trying to find is, all right, so the way that this is set up right now is on one side of the bracket, you have the MLS 4 team, which would be Portland, and MLS 2 team. So the winner between Miami and Tigres would play against the winner between Portland and Toluca. So hypothetically, just to throw an MLS team in there, I'm going to say Miami and Toluca in the semifinals. And then on the other side of the bracket, it would be the winner between Sounders and Puebla and Orlando and Pachuca. And I would say Sounders, Pachuca there, which would be two interesting matchups. And I would love to keep it Liga MX versus MLS all the way through.
Yeah, I would like that too. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right on with those predictions. With Miami, you always got to factor in, will the refs favor them? I know Mascherano was complaining about some of these matches and officiating. But I mean, it seems to be going Miami's way. So I still give them the benefit of the doubt over Tigres, even though Tigres have a really good squad.
Now, and I know because that's a very common thing with the whole Miami thing. Miami has gotten 3 PKs in the last 20 months. So unfortunately, they don't get a lot of PK calls. And I think the thing that Mascherano was talking about, which I guess it makes sense, but he was complaining that the whole ref crew was Mexican and the VAR crew was Mexican. And, and that was his complaint. Now, in a CONCACAF tournament, I think that's, I guess, normal. But, yeah, he thought that it was really weird that they were all Mexican because we know that Messi and Mexicans have, a love-hate relationship sometimes.
Yeah, so typically with like Champions League and tournaments like that, you have a neutral referee who is not from either nationality. So in this tournament, I don't know if they just can't do that. Like since this is just Liga MX versus MLS, you're going to have refs that are American or Mexican. You're not going to have, Panamanians, Costa Rican refs. So, I mean, you're going to run into that. And I understand, like, there might be some bias there. They're not supposed to be biased, but, sport can be corrupt at times, especially in Mexico. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's just part of the game. And I think from from our perspective, from Liga MX perspective, it's like we see Messi like kind of always get his way. Like we saw in the World Cup, and we see it with like Leagues Cup and stuff like that. So we're like, oh, of course, like things always like the perception is like biased in that way. It's like, oh, he always gets his way.
Yeah, no, of course. And look, Miami fans were really upset when Falcon got sent off with that red card, and it looked like a weak red. But I think what upset everybody the most is that the ref didn't go look at it on VAR, and then it ended up getting rescinded afterwards because Miami fans feel like they would have ended up number one. Right now, they would be playing against Puebla instead of playing against Tigres,
Yeah.
So I think that – oh, no, actually, I'm lying. Santos was still winning one because of that 7-0 Mali whopping of Cruz Azul. But I think that was the biggest complaint. But regardless, it looks like that's how it's going to turn out. My prediction is Miami versus Pachuca in the final. I don't know if you have a prediction there.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I can think that far ahead yet because a lot can happen between now and the next round. I think Tigres, out of all the Liga MX teams, is definitely the strongest. So
really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Toluca can kind of be Heckle and I don't know.
And Hyde?
Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde, huh?
They can have an off day. But Tigres have enough roster, enough squad to go on a deep run. Inter is going to be a great test for them. But if they get past Inter, that's it. They're taking the whole thing for sure. So
would you say, just going out on a limb, that's whoever wins that game probably is the favorite to win it all?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a if that doesn't make you want to watch the game, I don't know what does. That's gonna be a fun game. I'll be there, and I'll be. What's the goalie for Tigres' name so I can insult him?
Nahuel Guzman. Nahuel
Nahuel
Guzman.
Guzman. All right, yeah. 'Cause I like to insult the refs when I'm sitting behind them. I sit right behind the goalie, so
Oh
you get-
yes, please give him a hard time because
I would-
he's got that hate love relationship. If you're a Tigres fan, you love him, but if you're a Liga MX fan, you hate that guy. He's so annoying.
well,
And
it's like Rodrigo De Paul and Luis Suarez.
yeah,
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 I get it.
it's a he's one of the characters of Liga MX, and he has been for some time. Like you mentioned
Yeah.
before, like the Debu of
of Liga MX.
yeah. I have a question for you, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Biggest deception for you in Leagues Cup on the MLS side, or you can say Liga MX side too.
You know what? I don't know if for Liga MX side, Monterrey, I was expecting a lot from Monterrey. I was surprised, and Cruz Azul, I think, is an obvious one also. Not just losing, but getting their ass kicked, especially losing to LA Galaxy. You can't lose to LA Galaxy. I'm sorry, you just can't. But at least not this year. Maybe in years past, but not this year. MLS side, the biggest disappointment. I don't know. I think Cincinnati, maybe, especially after they go ahead and they beat Monterrey in that first match. I thought that they were a shoo-in to be in the top four. For them not to qualify to the top four, I think that's disappointing. So I would say Cincinnati for sure. And then San Diego, maybe, because they're the top team in the West, and they didn't really make as much noise as I thought they would have all either. But Cincinnati, I think, is the biggest disappointment for the MLS side. So Cincinnati and Monterrey, which were the teams that played each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. Leagues Cup, moving forward next year, what would you want to see different? Because I'll tell you what I want to see different. I hate that this last round of games happened in 3 days because I feel like day one teams had a major disadvantage, whereas in day three teams like LA Galaxy know exactly how many goals they need in order to qualify. Whereas in day one, which was 2 days ago at this point, we're just like got to go balls to the wall because I don't know how many goals I got to score. So we just got to open ourselves up defensively because we need to score as many as possible. And I think that although you can't play 18 games in 1 day, they have to figure out how to fix that.
Yeah, logistically, it seems like a nightmare to have games on at the same time.
Right.
I think the format needs to be better. I would have liked to see 8 go through on both sides. What's wrong with the round of 16? I know Leagues Cup in the past, you had round of 32, but this year they could have done 8 on 8. I think that would have been fair for everybody. But 4, it just makes it very, very hard to get in.
I 100% agree. I do like the aspect that everybody was paying attention and doing the math. Like everybody, look, me and was it Dennis or Sean? I forgot who it was that was telling me, no, it's only 2 goals. And then you start doing the math because you need to pay attention. Yeah. Everybody's watching all the games. I was doing a show an hour ago, and in the chat, instead of talking about the topic that we were talking about on the show, they kept updating everybody on the scores and what was happening in the game between Juarez and the Red Bulls. Like, I do like that it had everybody more engaged because it's a tight spot. Like, you can't mess up. You got to watch. Now, I do think, like you said, after day one, if you lost 7-0, you're basically out of it. So I felt like after day 2, everybody's disengaged by the time game 3 comes out. Exactly. So I'm sure there's some tweaking that can absolutely go on. But I did like this format more than the previous ones. So
yeah. I like it's getting better. It's they keep reiterating it, and it's gonna get better and better. Eventually, we would like to see like end game for me, home and away. Spread this out throughout the whole season. Don't try to force it into 1 month, and that would really open things up and get a lot more interest from everybody and make it accessible. I think not too many people have access to Apple TV, Apple TV Plus, and the MLS subscription. Just put it on YouTube. Put it on DAZN for free. Like, have everybody watch it, not just in the States, but like outside of the States. Liga MX just signed a deal with Brazil. They're going to be broadcasting the Mexican League in Brazil on YouTube. So like, why not? Just get more eyeballs on this. People want to see this. People want to see Messi. People want to see, the showcase.
Now's the time to get those contracts for sure. Yeah. I don't know if you saw La Liga, the league from Spain. They just signed a deal with Disney Plus.
Oh, I did not know that. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's only going to be like 1 game a week, but it's starting, right? Like they're like, we got to promote, and they're not putting Barcelona and Real Madrid on there. They're trying to promote the other teams, so people start watching the other teams. Football in the world is, and it's the world sport, but it's still managing to find a way to grow even more and expand. So it's definitely interesting. I was going to ask you something about Liga MX, and now I completely blanked. But and
for sure.
So
from my side, biggest deception, definitely Cruz Azul, just because on paper they look really good. I think they were like ranked number 1 going into Leagues Cup with, I don't know how Leagues Cup,
It
calculated
takes
that.
last year's point total.
I see. Yeah. So Cruz Azul, biggest deception, and that 7-0 is embarrassing. You got to walk. If you're a Cruz Azul fan, you got to put the lunch bag over your face. Like, you're not allowed to ever make fun of MLS or USS soccer. Like, yeah, it's the joke that just keeps on giving in Liga MX, and I love that. Rayados, definitely, for the amount of money that they have and the squad that they have, they should have gone through. They didn't. And then personally for me, Chivas, I think really frustrating to see them still waiting to see them win their first Leagues Cup match. They haven't won one yet. They won
Really?
They won the penalty shootout the last game, but I want to see like a dub, like an actual legit.
Yeah, right.
They're really struggling to close out games right now. 86th minute, they're up 2-1. I don't expect them to close out this game. I think Cincy is going to tie it up.
Oh yeah, that would suck. But since he's already eliminated, I don't know. I'm surprised that they're still trying. Okay, I remember what I was going to ask you. Do you think how would Leagues Cup do if they were to alternate places where they play? So they play 1 year, let's say here in the United States, the other in Liga. Like, in Mexico, do you think that would at all work? Because hypothetically, the way I'm looking at it is, when Liga MX teams come over here, I'm sure there are some teams like Querétaro's not going to get any fans to go out there and watch. But like, you have a large following of Mexican fans that attend these games. They made themselves heard. I don't know if MLS would make any money down there. How do you think that would play out if they were to try something like that? Which I don't think they will, but hypothetically.
Most teams in the league have great attendance. So there's going to be, I will say that you might have those outliers, like maybe a Puebla match versus, I don't know, like a LA Galaxy might not bring in the biggest draw, and Puebla Stadium is pretty big. But I think if you were to like showcase the big boys, like, your America, Pumas, Cruz Azul, Chivas, those games are going to be close to being sold out as long as the scheduling's right. Because midweek games are a little bit tougher in Mexico sometimes, and not everybody has most people work, so they can't attend those like late matches. But I still would like to see like home and away. Like, let's just make it happen. Why not? I think that would really, really show the world and MLS fans like, yo, like, the environment in Mexico is a lot different, and it's a lot tougher to win those games on the road.
Well, I would love to see that though. I really want to see this stadium, even if it's like you said, home and away, or just the top teams get to host the games because they, just because they did better the previous year, something. But I really would like to see that eventually. I would like to see these teams go play in those environments. Look, we have some people asking, and I wouldn't mind. I know that Liga MX was part of Copa Libertadores. I would love MLS to somehow get involved in that also. But like, you got to get like first play in Mexico before you go down to Argentina, because they get wild down there. Mexico, they get pretty wild also.
Yeah, so I always thought that this was an audition for something bigger and better. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but let's say Leagues Cup starts to get a lot of momentum, gets that prestige, starts to get interest from South America, and all of a sudden we're inviting them to our tournament. That could happen. But us getting into Libertadores, I don't know. Like, it's more for us than it is for them.
Who was it that you had? Liga MX had one or two teams make it to the final of Copa Libertadores once or twice.
We've had a few.
They've had success. They never won it all, but they've made it to the final a couple times.
Yeah, Cruz Azul went to the final against Boca Juniors, I think 2000, 2001. You've had America. You've had Tigres was the last one. Chivas also got to the final. So we've been very, very close from winning that. Pachuca won the Copa Sudamericana, which is like kind of like the Europa League. So they actually won that one. And I mean, for a long time, Liga MX was definitely respected within South America.
And why is it that fell off? Was there a reason given as to why that stopped?
I'm gonna assume it came down to money negotiations. I think Liga MX drew in a huge crowd, especially because those games were pay-per-view in Mexico. Like, you couldn't just watch it on network; you had to pay for those matches. So I think the money wasn't adding up for Liga MX. It's like, wait, we're only getting this cut. Like, yo, we're bringing all this money. So I think that's where the negotiations fell off. And also,
Gotcha.
I think CONCACAF kind of like scolded us because they, same thing with Copa America. Like we were bringing our best to Copa America, and then for Gold Cup we bring our B side. And CONCACAF didn't like that. They wanted the best players to play in our region, and they didn't.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons, political reasons, but it comes down to money.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. Well, Jaime, as always, appreciate you taking the time to join. And if you could just let everybody know where to find you if they want to hear more about Liga MX.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel, for having me back on. Really enjoy this format. You can find us on cantinamx.com. All the socials are there. And yeah, I really appreciate you for having me again. Shout out to the chat.
Yeah, Mr. Krabsky's asking if Cantina is a reference to Star Wars. I'm assuming Mr. Krabs is not Hispanic. Could you enlighten everybody what Cantina means?
Cantina means bar. So yeah. Yeah, it just means you go to the bar, you go to the cantina, the saloon, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess technically the Star Wars Cantina is like a bar.
I don't know. I don't do Star Wars. I've never watched the movie. So
I started this year on May 4th because May 4th is like the Star Wars date.
Okay.
We tried it out and my son and my daughter really liked it. So I've watched all the movies now. I can't say I'm a Star Wars buff quite yet, but yeah. I've watched them. They're not bad. You should give it a try. It's not
We'll
bad.
see. We'll see. Maybe when I have kids, I'll start watching those movies.
All right. Again, Jaime, appreciate you. And let's do this again, maybe for the final.
Absolutely.
All right.
Back.
So if you are listening on audio, appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Please leave us 5 stars, comment, review, all the good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And as always, for those of you in the chat, we appreciate you hanging out with us for the last 32 minutes. And we will be back to talk transfers. Biggest transfer window in MLS history just happened, and it's still going on. So it could even get bigger. So we'll be talking about that in the next episode. So until the next one, have a good one.